All right, everyone, welcome back. We're doing it again, and I'm getting ready to work on this little bit of blue drapery. If you want a nice in-depth tutorial about drapery, you can visit my channel, and it's probably nearing a year and a half old or so, but there's a good treatise on my thoughts on capturing drapery and making it successful. So I'll probably just reiterate a lot of that, but even as I do, I hope that you find something new and something valuable, and maybe I explain it in a way that I didn't before that's really helpful. So the layer is dry now, so I don't have to worry about taking up any extra paint. It's dry and hardened, and it's going to create a good foundation for this. I'm planning on this being the final color pass for this area. And I also want to clear up this, make some decisions here so that I can see what's happening between the lily and the fabric. That lack of clarity there bothers me. So I'm going to try to establish that too. So without further ado, let's get started. When I'm doing drapery, much like everything else, I want to establish some of my darkest areas first, so that I'm comparing my values. So right now, that's going to be the shadow along here, maybe some of the shadows within the folds here, and just laying those in, getting those in place, are going to tell me just about how dark to take the rest of the areas that fall in shadow. So let's get to some color. It's really exciting. It's color day. Something's going to happen. So thanks for being here. And as always, feel free to drop a line in the chat if you have any questions. I don't have a moderator today, but I'll be able to turn around and answer them as I get an opportunity. So let's get started. And let me know what you're working on. If you drop a line, what are you making? What are you doing in the studio today? And we can talk about that. So first, I'm going to kind of select a brush just to use for darker values. Lay in my black along here. And you can see this was black, and this is a black that hasn't dried and sunken in yet. And so colors sinking in is a big deal, and if you don't, it's tough to see when everything is not the same level of gloss or the same level of wetness. So it can make it a lot harder to make those decisions. I mean, there's probably a 20% value difference between this black and this. So I really want to make sure that I get this in and establish that fixed point, which looks like it's going to be about right there. I don't want to lose the really warm, because this is going to be a red up here. There's some really nice deep, dark, warm reds, and those are going to be nice to put in. I don't want to lose them. So I've just got a few areas that are indeed, as far as I can tell, that really dark, near black, and then everywhere else is not. It still may be quite dark, but I can make out some areas that have a little bit of hue, a little bit of blue hue in it, and I don't want to lose the opportunity to get that in. So I'm thinking with about the 3 hours that we have here, I should be able to block in and bring this area to a finish. I hope. That's my goal. A lot of that depends on how brave I'm feeling, how how big of a brush I use. My Brave meter is probably at, I don't know, it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of at 1 to 10, probably sitting around a 5 or a 6 today. So hopefully I can pull this out. All right. It's like my warmer dark in here. I know I can tell that it's going to be reflecting the red here, so I said, you know what, that's my starting point. This area here in the shadow. And a lot of times I just block it swiftly, take, a bigger brush, get it in there. There's quite a lot I can do in pulling the paint once the paint's on. So a lot of times it's a matter of getting it there so that the true render can begin. And there's always room to correct some of those mistakes. If I don't quite get it right, that is okay. I can adjust the color a little bit, and the drawing kind of on the fly. Some of those spaces I really want to get some clarity on around the blossom here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that so that I closer to not just seeing a problem. It's hard to jump back into works when you know there is a problem. And so I know I said this is the final color layer. It is just about, but sometimes it's not quite decided yet. I'll know that, I can achieve this or that if I go back in and just put a little glaze here and there just to change the color. To pay attention to just some of the temperatures of the blue as I'm laying it in. Okay. Right. All right, I think I have kind of some of the darker things in place. There is an overall kind of roundedness I'm going to use. So most of my strokes are going to follow the overall form here. Yes, there's form in, how each of the folds moves, but overall I'm going to be looking and watching for marks in this way. In fact, I've even arranged the folds of the fabric to do the same thing. And that's just going to tell us about how it is working. It's also going to aid in just a little bit of description. And you'll find that that goes a long way. And then you drop your brushes. Poor carpet, never meant to sustain the abuse of being a studio, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So I've mixed these blues. I mean, my palette always has all my colors in it, so it's hard to say, oh well, this color was made with certain ones, because I'm always using different mixtures of the same few colors. But on the whole, I'm creating a little bit of a cooler area for the blues using cerulean blue, and then some of the warmer areas of the blues using ultramarine blue. And both of those are going to be needed in order to create some success today. So welcome. If you've just joined, please drop a line. Let me know how things are going, what you're working on today, and yeah, any questions at all. Would love to just help you out in your art making, answer any questions about what I'm doing. So right now I'm establishing my kind of the main planes of this blue fabric, and I'm going to worry about describing it more fully when I get down to rendering it a little more tightly. Right now, it's in the phase of just blocking it in. And I'm not attempting to get too serious just yet. You know, this phase is really good because it's, you know, sometimes you just get lucky. You know, you're looking at the shapes of the drape and you're filling it in, and then lo and behold, it's like, oh, yep, that was the right one to put down, and that's almost done. Those are exciting moments when you're like, oh, maybe I won't have to just sit here and render this for many hours. So I'm always kind of hopeful, trying to kind of work it that way too. Plus, it can get really slowed down, bogged down, if you have to just wait on it, and get really stuck in little detail while you're moving forward. I don't have anyone monitoring the chat today, so if you do have a question, just drop it in, and periodically in my little step back breaks, I'll be able to see what it is and answer it. And even if you have to go, you know, just come back. The answer will eventually be here, even if you just check into the video a couple days later. Got my moderator doing some different things around the house for me today. Some good work. So I'm alone in the studio, which is always a little sad. I realize a lot of artists kind of like that, and you know, I like it in degrees, but after a while it's still really important to see and hear and have that connection with those I love. It gives me a lot of good energy for creating great paintings. I'm not using a lot of medium. I generally don't. Right now I want the paint to be mostly opaque, and so yeah, some of the underpainting is showing through. Probably hard to tell on the live stream, but I can make it out underneath, and I'm going to use those warms to my advantage by pressing a little harder when the moment calls for it. But for right now, just blocking in. Even blocking in those slight turns of the fabric. To cap it all, I'll follow kind of in a cross hatching way. As soon as I feel like I've achieved each fold to the degree that I want to get it to, I'll kind of finish it in such a way that really makes our eyes see it as three-dimensional. But that's kind of the last step, or as I get to each section and complete each part. probably going to hear a muffled saw in the background, and that would be my moderator getting some good work done outside. So thank you, Sean. You are the man. Appreciate you. You know, it's and you can probably already make out some of it working. And you know, the fun thing about watching it on video is you know, it starts to work quicker than in person. And the refinement that I take it to after that is always not visible in the moment on video. So I think I like that as the end of where that lily ends and fabric begins. This was a deliberate choice to have the fabric extend farther and go in behind the lily in an attempt to not confuse the viewer. And that's not what was originally in the source material, but something that I knew needed to happen. And so just softening this edge a little bit was kind of bothering me. So sometimes I get maybe a little more detailed early on than I like, simply because I'm like, yeah, that's not working yet. I need to get in there and do something about this or that. I use the smallest bit of medium in this stage. I'll just dip in. I'm using Chelsea Classical Studio, their product, their lavender spike oil medium, which is non-toxic to breathe, which is helpful when you're an oil painter. I was having a conversation with a patron earlier today about the options that are out there for making good choices in your studio practices to try to be safe. At the same time, realizing it's a pretty toxic medium, oil painting. You have to have something to break down the oil, and it's almost always quite poisonous. Sometimes you can get away with using other things, and that's good, and you should do that whenever possible. But there are a few times where, sadly, there's just no way around using mineral spirits and a few other things. But that's one thing you probably noticed in the videos is I never wash my brushes, and I really just use them. If probably the most washing they get is me just wiping them off with a paper towel. For me, that doesn't really affect the work at all, because it's already, I'm already mixing my colors, so I really don't mind that maybe it would make a big difference if I were switching from the blue to the red fabric, but today I'm just going to focus on the blue fabric. That might be enough of a problem. But really, other than big shifts like that, you can kind of continue to use the same brush. Just going to wipe it off. Yeah, it's still going to have some of the paint on it that you just used. but as long as it's not a big shift in color or value, it's going to be okay. This is always a space that's kind of fun, where you still have a lot of the underpainting, and once this blue starts to get in there, it really starts to look warm, like almost orange, even though before it all looked, actually it was the bluest part of the underpainting. So it's really interesting how that works. Phenomenon called simultaneous contrast. And so the colors around a particular color will make them look different, especially if they're neutrals or something that can shift a little bit. And so it's interesting to see how, now that I put this blue on here, this just looks so orange. Whereas before, it kind of just looked like what some people call the dead layer, or it looked like it had like zero color in it. But now suddenly it's like, oh, it's orange, and that happens. So I'm continuing to just putz around, work on a few areas here and there. Slowly build up this fabric, and as you can see, it doesn't take too long. I'm just trying to, I'll be buffing a lot of it and working on different areas, but for now I just want to kind of get this covered so I can kind of see what it's doing, isolate it as much as I can. I mean, it's not going to, I'm still going to run into a lot of adjustments needing made. It's all right. I remember early on in my painting career, anytime I would do drapery, fabric, clothing, and I'd look at the folds and I would think, well, of course, some of the lightest area of each fold is going to be the spot where it's kind of at its peak. And to me, it makes sense, right? It's like closest to the light. But the more time I spend with it, I realize usually the lightest and most intense color is in the valleys. And I think thinking of the way light works, that should have been made sense a long time ago, but I'm pretty slow to learn. And light kind of comes into those valleys and then bounces around more, and can create some really intense color areas. Yep, I'm liking how it's coming along so far. see a couple comments. Let me see if I can sneak out of my painting cave and address them. Hello. Approach and trying to put down the colors and the right values at the first attempt, leaving at and developing the painting from there, one section at a time. So good question. Good question. If you come back on, I'd love to. Hopefully, this will answer. So that putting the color down on the first attempt is more successful because of what I am doing by having the other bit of color and value underneath it. So I'm already building on top of another value, and that really makes the difference. So I hope you come back on, hope you see the answer, and I'd love to talk more about it. For videos my size, with subscribers of my size, it would be nice if comments could just sort of be made aloud. Even if there was heckling, I wouldn't mind. So it'd be fun. So I kind of miss out. And seeing what people are saying. My recording PC is across the room. It's good. It's noisy. You wouldn't want it nearby anyway. Yeah, so putting down kind of the full color, and I realize it looks like full color. It's just one of those things that is hard to recognize across, the computer. But there is a good deal of this underlayer showing. Welcome back. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat, and I'll be doing my best to answer those as I go. My moderator is currently out, and I have to kind of look across the room to see the chat. And do my best to kind of carry it all, do it all at once today. So I was just talking about how I've got, the main layer. You can probably see in the area around I've already established some lights and darks and built an overall layer of color, value I should say, and I'm just building on top of that. And while it looks like the paint I'm putting down is entirely opaque, it's really not. And some of that value is still seen from below. It's one of those hard things to translate without being in the presence of it. So live stream video and cameras can only do so much. So I'm using part of these lights and darks, as you can kind of see in some of these other areas, to kind of bulk up the lighter and darker colors below. And that's really one of the great things about oils, is you get all these really neat effects because it's semi-transparent, and it just glows so nicely. One of the things I wanted to solve was how I wanted to finish this area around the lily, and I kind of knew what I was getting into, but I was like, I really need to make some of those decisions so that it is kind of truly sitting there. I was kind of leaving that part a little vague, and I thought, oh, with the time that I do have today, I will I'll just see kind of where I end up. I see some conversation happening. I'm gonna sneak off and answer some questions. Who's in the house today? Barack. Hey, good to see you, brother. Thank you on the flowers. Man, they lack a bit of depth, don't they? Yep, I guess so. Thanks for the feedback. I could always use that. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Got to see the whole. We're from the vantage point that I'm looking at the piece now. I think it's looking good. But thanks for dropping in and saying hi, Brock. Always appreciate seeing you. I don't like to take too much time and delicacy on. I mean, I'm going to get to some smaller brushes, but right now I've blocked this in to a degree that I'm feeling pretty content, and so now I can move into some refinement. So we're just going to add a little bit there. I saw some spaces here. Needed attention. this is just a refining. So now what I want to do, I've done the major sort of block in of the tiles of the fabric, and I'm going to pause at this point just to begin keying in a few areas that I'm just missing, so I'm looking to get that coverage. Because right now, what's going to start to just steal the space and not allow me to see what's happening are just the areas where the underpainting is still showing through. So I'm going to block that in as best as I can see it right now. And then sometimes I get distracted on the way. So sometimes I'm like, oh wait, I need to get that in, or this or that. So it gets a little. Sometimes I can do it really simply. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even have to really necessarily get the color all right, but just focus on getting the coverage. Some of these areas, I'm just paying a little close attention as to what's happening. And then it gets pretty swift as soon as those are covered up. There's just a little bit of refinement that has to occur. But getting those out of the way so that they're not kind of just distracting us. It's really key. Go, just finding all those little points where the underpainting is still peeking through. I don't want any more distraction. And those can do that. Those are usually often happens in the in-between points. Between points. Brock, you're back. I wish I could read your comment from here. It's good to see you. Let's see. Gonna sneak over real quick. You deserve more views. You're such a sweet guy. Thanks. I think that all comes with time, and yeah, I just have to kind of wait for this to be known. I just like to hang out with other artists like yourself. So thanks for what you're saying. So like at this point, most of that fabric is blocked in, and I'm gonna go for a refinement period on it, but I'm not gonna try to get too bogged down. Again, I know this painting is gonna be about 20 feet in the air, and so I need to focus on the major value relationships and describe those really well, so that when viewed from a distance, we have just enough detail, and we're not getting too stuck looking at things that just ultimately aren't going to matter. Yeah, Brock. So a lot of this is like sunken in some of these other areas around it. So it's definitely, I've heard it said before, it's kind of the ugly teenager phase of the painting, and I went through that phase. I remember it well. Got lots of middle school pictures as proof. We all have to go through that phase. And each painting goes through that phase. And I just get really sad during those times too, though. But you know, it is what it is. Hard to see what it's going to be in the end. But you know, I'm kind of remembering what I put down. Yeah, and I could have rubbed in some walnut oil or just something to oil out that area, and could see it a little fresh, but I'm gonna move forward and trust. I remember what's there. I'm gonna live dangerously. All right. This last little area here. Okay, this is the rough block in, and then I'm gonna decide now what else I really want to do in this area. Like, how much more do I want to describe? So this is the time where I'll get out a little buffer brush sometimes, and just kind of smooth out some of the work I've done to see, like, hey, is this working? And if not, then I can go back in and make some adjustments. But yeah, so I'll just take this little buffer. It's camel hair, and I'm still trying to follow the overall form I want. If you have the sort of like contour lines, kind of want them all following this way. At the same time, I'm going to try to tell a little bit, and you know, I'll sneak in, and occasionally if I dry my brush off or get some of the paint off, I might take in some of this darker and just pull it up. I know that's probably not even visible on the live stream. Maybe I'll exaggerate it with a fan brush. So this is kind of one of the end techniques when I'm finishing up drapery. If I want to really tell the story of how this fold comes around the top like this, then I can do so with the paint lines. So starting in the shadow, brushes down, I'll just pull it up and over. And what that does is that just creates a few lines there. And I'll do it again in this other area. Make sure I've kind of gotten most of the paint off of it. And then I'll do it again. I'll just start in the shadow, pull it up. And it's a little bit of movement there. I might have to go back over that so that it looks better. So I may lose some of the work I did there. That's all right. I can do similarly, even in the light, you know, I can start at this edge of this light and just bring this form down a little bit, and you can see it just immediately creates a little bit of a curvature. You can also use the same brush to kind of follow this and then come around. And some of the lines are just a little too much, and I'll kind of buff them out, but I like what it can do to create that nice, and it also gives that a bit of a textile look. And since textiles is what we're going for right now, you know, that's all good. I'll come back and use the buffer a little bit and pull some of that out. It's not as blue as I'd like it to be in there. It's a really nice, I'm just kind of looking, I was like, wow, there's a really nice deep blue. I'm gonna see if I can put some of that in. Not overdo it too much. Yeah. There we go. Now, if you want to do, I have another video on the channel that goes over drapery. I think pretty effectively. It's actually one of the first ones I ever did. But I still like the way I describe some of the process. Very similar to this. I'm seeing a nice deep dark in here, so I don't want to lose that, and so I'm going to block that in. And sometimes there's a reason to get out a little liner. As I see, so it's starting to get to Edward brush hands here. Usually when I'm excited and I'm working from brush to brush, I'll just kind of soften this shadow line with a little bit of intense blue, resting my knuckle on this area that's already dry. See a little bit of a drawing error, excuse me. One of the great things about drapery is you got a little bit of fudge room, so if you start messing up, it's not, you know, or if the drawing is not exact, you're okay, you know. It can go bad, and it can and you can miss some kind of key areas that really tell us about what's happening in space. But you know, it's for the most part, you have a lot of forgiveness in what it does and how it responds. So you don't have to get it exactly right, but you do have to get it believable. Make that Sure, that was nice and dark in there. And there's a little bit of light that's happening. That trying to decide, do I really want to include that or not? Is it going to help? And I'm gonna go for it. This is just catching a little bit of light as it goes around the corner. So I'm gonna see if I can make that happen. I notice the way I'm using my brush is I'm kind of trying to, these are small little curved strokes happening following following the drapery. And then I can hop back in. I can just pull that a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, that's all right. Pretty good at that. All right, I'm gonna check the chat. Brock says, yep, I've watched it. You're the man. Thank you for watching, man. I appreciate it. You never left. Awesome. So, yeah, drapery, textiles. I guess I just want to have the ability to kind of do whatever. I think it's good for drawing though too. And it really helps. Really helps getting. I think it's really good practice. Drapery, not the most exciting for the forms, but I think it it can be really good practice for just doing a bit of a comparative method for drawing. I think that's where like the value lies. And then if you, a lot of my imagery has a lot of drapery in it. And it's fun to see how it responds to the light. But yeah, it can be a lot of work. I can spend a lot of time stuck in an area working on drapery. It slows me down quite a bit in getting paintings finished. Make that a little bluer in there, nice deep ultramarine blue. Sometimes you can hide your really intense color in the shadows. So you can do crazy bold things like put almost straight tube ultramarine blue in place because it's just kind of hiding in the shadow. But it does this, it adds just a little bit of an richness to your darks so that they're not just, oh, I took this color and I mixed it with black to make it darker. But there's this really intense blue just sitting right next to my mixed black. And of course the mixed black contains part of that blue, and that really helps overall. So thanks for sticking around and watching, Brock. I do appreciate you, and maybe it'll be someday more people will hang out too. Probably after I finish this painting, I'll probably take the next painting off from the live stream world. But there will be more as long as I'm breathing. We'll keep painting, and we'll have more opportunities for us to all hang out across the globe. quiet moment there. Let's see. Just still seeing a few areas that I haven't quite got to the level that I like them. Yeah, it gets complicated. I mean, at what point does it feel finished? And I'm not there yet, but I will get there. I have to kind of slowly work my way into it. Just a little more rendering of the form, because I'll see more of a shadow that curves around. Because my tendency is to, whoops, yep. Occasionally I put my pinky down in wet paint. Didn't mean to. Sure happened though. So if I'm not, I'll feel oftentimes bracing myself with my pinky out here in areas that are dry. No doubt ruining the painting with my hand oils. It's my mall stick replacement. It's my pinky. Probably should get some of this paint off. Does some of the blue does have cobalt in it, which is a heavy metal. Having fun with. Sometimes I'll mix up the most chromatic colors just for certain areas. We'll see what this does. If this is probably still too. All right, I'll drop this in here just a little bit. A little more intense. Go across the top here. See if I can create just a few little highlights. Here and there. And then there's always it doesn't matter what I'm working at on the drapery here. There's always areas that like kind of work and other areas that don't, and I'm always battling a little bit, saying, okay, why isn't this working right now? And that's just when I usually kind of buckle down and really go into really look hard at my source material, because I know that usually means I'm missing something. whenever that's happening. So again, just kind of barely following the form there. My goal usually is to tell a few spots just really good. And then that usually does the heavy lifting for the rest of the section. And not that I'm trying to do less work, but if some of those areas get done well and really feel volumetric and we feel those folds, then you can kind of overlook other areas that don't as much. I don't really like this area up here, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. Up to that red right now, and I can't see truly what's happening. That sometimes happens too. It's a little bit distracted this point where I'm just jumping around and I'm looking at looking at certain areas thinking, oh, that's, you know what, that needs to be addressed. Oh, that needs to be addressed. And it's a little crazy. But in this time, I'm hoping to solve some of the little problems I see as I'm going. Probably be a little better if I focused on one area, but I just don't seem to do that very well. Hard to tell probably on the stream, but there's a nice underneath, especially the lighter areas of blue, is this warm orangey color. It's just showing through. And again, I'm not a glazer really, but I like the effect of how that underlayer still shows through. I've got a little bit of work to do just on these edges of the flower and the fabric. It's not done, but I'd like to both get those to a space where they're at least on the same playing field, because that's one of the hardest things, is when things have a different amount of render, it's just harder to compare and to know, okay, what should be happening. Also, not only do they have a different rendering, they also have a different sheen. The color in the floral parts has sunken in and is dead and will need to be oiled out to be seen. So that's kind of, when I talk about this being the final layer or the finished layer, it is to a degree, but then after that, I still need to see everything kind of oiled out and solve some of the problems. Usually they're edge problems, 9 times out of 10, where I either just didn't quite get enough paint down when I was working, or those sort of things. Let's see. I see some chat. What's going on? All right. I made a still painting with fabric under the picture. It looks so real. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Like when that fabric is really working, it's just so satisfying. 100%. How do you improvise while painting? Really small details or completely ignore them? I kind of just let the brush do what the brush does, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and yeah. So, and 100%, I don't like the really small detail either. I find that to be way too cumbersome, and in fact that's why you never see me do a lot of fabrics with patterns and things like that. That's something I really try to avoid. So, Andy, good to have you. I don't know what point I said what. So glad to have you. Thanks for watching. And I need to be able to like see my stream chat better, but my computer's across the room. So yeah, and I definitely try not to overwork it, Brock, because all that little detail, it's like, oh yeah. Yeah. Looking at it, I'll probably go midtones. Yeah. Yeah, so good point. Like how do I decide how much and where I need to go next? So today I'm just focusing on I know the floral needs more work, but I was like, well, I was kind of looking at my day and saying, I've got 3 hours. And if I've got 3 hours, here's how I'm going to spend that 3 hours effectively. And I didn't want to get bogged down, or well, actually, it just would have taken maybe 30 minutes to address the floral side of things. And I wanted something more in the 3 hour range. So I decided, okay, I think I can deal with my blue fabric in that 3 hours. And that will probably be about right. Because if I do this side and then I hop over to the next side, I think I can accomplish this before 5 o'clock Central Time. And so a lot of times I'm just looking at how much time I have, and I really want to finish a section as I'm going, if that makes sense. So yeah, Brock, I do want to do that. Hopefully someday, we've got tons of people watching, and we're to the point where YouTube is monetized, and I can say, oh yeah, let's buy another little camera to mount onto the palette. So it's coming. I promise someday we're gonna do it. And Brock, I spent the first 30 minutes before I started the stream mixing color. I just wanted a few piles that would kind of give me some of that direction. But 100%, I do need to work on my mid-tones a little bit. I tend to kind of focus on the light and dark, and that's exciting for me. I appreciate that, and so I appreciate that word, that good advice to focus on some more of the mid-tones, because yeah, they're missing here and there. And then I just have to decide too if I'm going to spend 3 hours. At what point am I getting too focused in one area? Because I can come back and adjust a few small things later, but I want to really get the bulk of this area done. I mean, like most of the heavy lifting in this session, and then to this side is another part of this blue shawl, and we'll switch to that shortly. I just want to do a little more on this, and just again, watching my time. I guess goal setting is really how I determine what I'm going to do. And that, before I sat down, I just sort of decided, okay, today I'm going to get the blue fabric essentially done. Yeah, there may be little things that I still need to do, but for the most part, let's get it blocked in. Let's get it working. It doesn't have to be perfect. but let's get it nearly done, and little refinements can happen elsewhere at another time if time allows. And if it sounds like, man, you are too worried about your time, as a professional artist, I got to think about every making things work, and I'm also a dad, so I don't want to be painting all night. So I really try to stop at 5 o'clock each day. It's priorities, and so my goal is always to give myself the chunks that I need, and then very few occasions do I actually work past that. And I pretty much only ever do it when we're kind of really running against the clock, or if my family's out of town and I'm just working on painting, which that does occasionally happen now and then. But for the most part, I've got to think about just time management. Also, this is painting number 1 of technically 7 in this commission series, and I don't even have number 1 yet done, and that's the finish has to come by this December, and they're all about this size. They're all about this detailed. And that's exciting. I'm really pumped up for this awesome opportunity, but I also realize, I gotta pace myself too. So sorry if that kind of takes away the romance of being an artist, but there are also some realities too. My shadow's a little too dark here. I think that's what's causing me some issue that I don't like. And then sometimes you're just like, I wish I had a Control Z. Control Z. Yeah, I like how that turned out. But oftentimes I'm kind of waiting for that stopping point when it's like, yeah, that's working. And there's a little bit of noise underneath this area with the underpainting. You can see some kind of oranges, and I'm good with that. So I think I'm kind of liking that section. Ready to try to move on. The challenges is one of the challenges here is like, okay, how light do I take the blue before I start to lose the blue, right? Because you can continue to add white until you lose it all, and I'm definitely trying to avoid avoid that, but I still want intensity. And so I think I've come to about the intensity that I can achieve between my blues and my lead white to really get that. So right now I'm just going to take in this little buffer brush, this little camel hair, and just describing, following some of the form, softening it out just a little bit. And if you haven't, if this is one of your first times to really spending time on the channel, I do have a video dedicated to drapery. It's about 2.5 hours long, thereabouts. And you can pop in and check that out. I'm going to say a lot of the same things that I'm saying today. But if you want to hear it again and see it probably in better quality, really. We had better cameras for that. And I don't remember if we had, if we showed the palette for that one. I don't think we did. But as Barack was saying, I'm hoping, yes, to be able to show the palette and share that part of it too in the coming days. As soon as we get more watchers, maybe someday. I'm going to take another peek at your comments because I think I'm getting pretty close, and that'll give me a chance to see about how much more I want to do with this. You see, I'm kind of doing a curving motion because I want that to feel like this little fold here moving back into space. So I'm beginning to move the brush more like this. Whereas on this side, I'm moving the brush like this to kind of create these contour lines that tell the overall movement of each one of these little forms. Really hard to see, I think, over the camera, but nevertheless, you get the gist. All right, no new questions. Okay, I need a ding noise. All right, how much more do I want to do? That is always the question, and I think I'm pretty much there. All right, I like that. I think for some reason it just said time to move on and kind of be okay with it. It's tough because, I still want to fiddle, and you better believe there's more that could be done. And you're seeing it too, so I know it. I'm sorry, but I've got to move on. Good enough to move on. That is it's not mine. I got it from someone else, but Gitmo. GETMO, good enough to move on. We all have to decide how much more adjustment would truly bring what I'm looking for. But at some point, there's just a place where you're not going to be able to achieve for another hour's worth. I could probably garner another 5 or 6% of detail, and so for me, good enough to move on. Gitmo. All right, I don't want to scoot this just a little bit this way. Hopefully fell somewhere. Oh, I'm gonna spell it for you. Here it is. Gitmo. Good enough to move on. We all gotta have our Gitmo. Okay. Okay, similar process. I'm gonna kind of look at some of the darker areas. I'm gonna do my best to describe those. And do so quickly. All right, am I mostly out of the way? I think I am. I'm painting here. Yep. All right. Good, good, good. Cat hair removement. Get out of here, cat hair. Removal. I love my cat, but he makes a lot of mess. All right, here we go. And looking around, seeing where I need to go. It's probably not quite dark enough. That's all right. I'm gonna pump it up just a little more. So just laying in those darker values. Again, asking myself what's going to be visible. And don't worry too much. I'm going to shift this up just slightly, seeing that. Okay. Don't want to make this entirely black. I kind of like a little bit of blue. I'm using some of my, I don't want to go too far though. You know, this is really following that initial block in that I did, which was also following my drawing. I like to add, even though this isn't usually the case, I like to add just a little bit of an angular structure to what I'm making. It's more rounded in my source material, but I find, at least with drapery, the more kind of chunky I make it, and almost hard and hard-edged, the better it turns out in the end. That's, at least for me. It gets too sinuous, some of those lines, too curvilinear. I don't know. It just lacks the depth for me. I don't have a hard time being okay with it. Okay, so I've laid in these darks, and that's pretty good. I'm gonna kind of move to the next darkest area that I find. Gonna try to get those mid-ranges. Try to focus a little more on that. Thank you, my friend, for recommending that and noticing that. I appreciate it. There is sawing going on outside right now. It's good. It's music to my ears. So if you hear the saw blade going, that's actually Sean out there. He is creating a window well cover. Here's too much information, or information you didn't care about. He's creating a window well cover for one of our basement windows. So, good man, Sean. Didn't like how blue that was, so I just dropped a little burnt sienna in there to just really try to muddy it up some, neutralize it just a little. I don't know if I'm going to get to live stream tomorrow. I'm hoping so, but if I do, just saying, a couple of weeks ago, well, no, now it's almost a month or more. It's like we had ducks on the channel. Might have kittens on the channel tomorrow. Maybe, just maybe. Yes. Andy, good question. 100% chromatic black. So I've mixed burnt sienna and ultramarine blue to make my black, and that's pretty much my go-to black. And I find that really to do the trick. And it's nice, especially in a case like this where I'm working on this fabric. The fabric is using ultramarine blue. So that black, that chromatic black, is then mixing with itself. And it's not something you would ever think or even perceive, but there it is. It's just working and doing it and creating these connections, visual connections that aren't seen. So great question, Andy. Thanks. Yeah, chromatic black, 100% mixed black. Every time. And not that I'm against the use of black. occasionally I like to get it out, but I usually only get it out after I've effectively gotten all the rest of my darks to more or less the darkest level. The painting is nearly done, and then I might drop in some ivory black just for some extra punch. And I find that to be kind of the best for me, so that I don't overdo it. But yeah, I like the fact that, you know, the black is just has a lot of color in it, and then I think it doesn't deaden colors as it so easily can. And a lot of people use it and they use it just fine. But on the whole, it can just ruin some of those pretty colors. Yeah, I said pretty colors. To be honest, these are the areas that I like when these areas that are turning off into the shadow, you're getting that edge, the terminus. Just so nice, so pretty. Yep, I said it again, pretty. And wow, just a little bit of light is still catching some of these edges, but on the whole, the light is decayed significantly. And that's really helpful for a moment like this where you have all this intense bright light falling here, but then, you know, it's decaying as it goes. So, and her form is slightly turned. So I'm thinking about how the light's going to fall at a harder angle. It is intense because it's a little farther away. And yeah. Yeah, to your question, in Instagram the other day, I'm not I'm not in Ann Arbor. No, yeah, I Ann Arbor. I heard there was some kind of bad storms there for the show. Somebody asked me. Another one of my artist friends was asking if I was present there, because he was concerned about the weather. Was there some bad weather there? Do you know? For that weekend? The best thing about the Ann Arbor show for me was the people I stayed with. They were so sweet. They were amazingly nice and kind. And I just thought, wow, I want to come back to hang out with them. Not necessarily sell art. They were just so nice. And two, I think when I went there, it was 2016 is when I was there last. I think my son was almost 1. And, you know, I was just missing my family a lot. And so this family who kind of were offering up one of their bedrooms for artists who were showing in Ann Arbor. It was just great. We'd have a nice long day, because they were long days, out there in the square. And then I'd come back and it was like home away from home. It was really sweet. As I said, I would go back just to hang out with them. All right, I see some chat. I'm coming. One day was completely rained out. Wow, 3 days. Yeah, I think I think it is always extreme weather. It's I mean, I think when I was there, it was like that 2016, and maybe this is almost always the case, but it was like I think it was 100 degrees each day, no lying, and I suffered. I suffered mightily. And we did have one storm while I was there blow through. I don't know if you remember it. It was just kind of, it was a quick thing, and those in charge of the show were really good about it. I mean, they kind of came by, gave us heads up, just saying, hey, this is about to happen. It is probably going to be pretty serious, and basically get ready. And I closed up the booth for that, zipped it down, and went into the nearby building. And I think I have a video of it as it blew through, whipping tents around, and no tents were destroyed that I could see, but definitely it was no joke. So yeah, severe weather. Ugh. So did it? It must have. Actually, the whole show closed down for that day. That's pretty wild if that's the case, because usually, all these shows are rain or shine generally. So yeah, to kind of hop back into what I'm doing, just like I did on the other side, I'm working this point, just trying to get this space to where I've applied the main parts of the planes that I see on the fabric, and then not intending to kind of go any further. My paint's a little dry, even though it's doesn't appear it. Some of my paint is still kind of wet in the background over here, so I'm gonna have to float it. I do have my mall stick over there. I could try. I never have a lot of success with the mall stick, so I'm just gonna go for it. I forget, Andy, were you showing there? Or are you from there? So I'm trying to get the rest of this in. I primarily want to cover and get coverage on all of this underpainting, which was always amazing to me. As soon as I lay these colors in, the simultaneous contrast kicks in and looks so incredibly intense. It's like, whoa, that looks like an orange back there. Well, it's only because it's blue next to it right now. Also biked into the show each day. That was fun. Biking and having, like, avoiding the whole parking thing. I'd never done that for any other show and haven't since, but I enjoyed that. And you'll notice in the marks I'm making, I'm trying to still follow. I mean, I know sometimes, yeah, I know initially I was doing these kind of broad, long marks, but now, I'm trying to follow a little bit more of the form of the drapery. So I'm trying to kind of go around to a degree. So you'll see me kind of make these marks like this, following this rather than just kind of going to the side. And I think that is a really effective way to create that volume. I mean, that we're all searching for when painting. I always want volume anyway. Yeah, if you're just joining us, or maybe if you've been on the stream for a little bit, or maybe there's no one on the stream. I don't know. I don't really see right now. No matter what, thanks for being here, even if you're watching at a later time. And yeah, drop a question in there in the chat or in the comments later. At this point, I have opportunity to answer in the off hours. So I'll see those comments and I can address them. So don't feel shy. Just say whatever's on your mind. You can even tell me what to do. You can even say, "Hey, we had someone earlier make the comment. Hey, I think it's your mid values that need to be looked at. I think that's kind of what you're missing." And I welcome that even. I may disagree with you at some point, but I even welcome critique because ultimately that makes the piece better. So, in fact, I don't. It's really interesting. I have a couple people in the studio almost every day, and they're the final say. Like I stop before kind of before I'm like, okay, this is done and ready. I'm asking them. I'm saying, all right, guys, what is it that needs attention? Does anything look weird? Does any and I mean, and I mean it. It's one of those moments where if they say it, I'm gonna do it, even if I don't quite agree. But most of the time, you just can't see it anymore fresh, and so it's good to have that quick word, that quick fresh perspective. So that's fine too. You're only gonna make the piece better. And if I disagree with you, then then that's okay too. Thanks for trying. I won't be mean about it though, I promise you. Okay, that is almost blocked in before we kind of move into some refining spaces, but yeah, and this blocking in, I'm trying to do relatively quick. Ultimately, if I were like John Singer Sargent or something, it always felt like he had just the right marks in the right spot. Always. Somebody told me that he didn't necessarily paint that way, but that he would model the forms, and then at the end, he'd kind of drop in a few choice strokes that obviously worked. He already knew what he was doing. That really then gave it that energy of finish and of looseness. I don't know if that's true or not, but either way, he was the man when it came to capturing cloth and with just seemingly an economy of brush strokes like no one else. Right. Gonna check the chat here. Come on. So artists gave up on that day when it was crazy rainy. Huh. Shut down at midday. Yeah. Oh, well, that's a good show. Okay. I'm glad you're working on painting and getting things done. That's good. It's good. Yeah, I need to get on that palette cam. Yeah, we'll do it. We did buy. Here's the thing. We did invest in a capture card that has four slots, so we'll be able to run multiple cameras up to 4 eventually. That's the long-term goal, but baby steps first. But yeah, that's I'd like to end up there. Blue fabric. All right, I'm gonna set down all these and I'm gonna get out the little buffer brush. Let me just knock down some of the rougher areas. See what I've got. So see how my block in turned out. Yeah, I really liked Ann Arbor as a city. It was great. As I said, love the people. It was a really slow show for me though, and honestly, that's the biggest reason why I haven't returned. It's a 15-hour drive from here, and so I guess I'm a little. It's a big commitment too. The days are kind of long, and so I'd have to, yeah, I'd have to really be won over to do it again, and maybe someday I will. Yeah, this year has been really a wonderful year for artists. I mean, I can say for certain. I mean, it's as though I mean it makes sense, but people have been in their homes a lot, and they're looking around on their walls, and they're like, I'm tired of this stuff, and so so I think that has led to a lot of sales for me. I think too, people are some, I should say, I don't want to speak in broad generalizations. I know it's been hard for a lot of people. But, I think there's a little bit of flush with stimulus money, individuals flush with stimulus money. And so we did really well. Our first show of the year was my best of all time. We were down in Texas and it was amazing. It's gonna take quite a show to beat that one in the future. So if you did see my palette, actually, well, here, tell you what I can do. You guys are asking. Let me just pop it out here. See how I'm doing Okay, yeah, right here. I've just mixed up a few piles of blue. Probably hard to tell, but some of them are a little more purple, some are a little more greenish, just depending on some of the subtleties I see in the blue. And yeah, and primarily I think I just mix those out of these yeah, actually these four. I didn't even bump, no, I didn't even bump into any of my CADs. And I don't have everything out that I'm using that I normally use because I knew today I was just going to focus on the blue, but yeah, you can kind of zoom back out to that. So I'm just pulling from these piles, these pre-mixed piles I made. I'll set them to the side after this, on the edge of the palette, and I'll use them again. I'll just let them kind of dry and get their film, and I'll probably break them out when I'm working on the red to make sure. Oh, I just realized, I just saw that I've got a little bit of extra blue down here. Whoa, okay, so I have less time than I thought I did. So, all right, let's kick it into gear. Just ever forget what you're even painting. So in the premixed piles, I've already mostly got what I wanted, and so I'm just picking from those colors I think it speeds up this process. Doesn't necessarily, on the front end, the mixing is about an hour. Well, no, that's an exaggeration. It's probably more a 30-minute process, and yeah, I guess I don't share that because I mean, I suppose if I were doing a live demo, I might talk a little bit more while I was doing that and try to explain it. But I feel like if you're not seeing what I'm about to work on, unless I was sharing that too, then it becomes, well, it's kind of fun watching this guy mix color, but what's it for? So thanks for asking to see the palette, because it just made me think, oh well, I can pop it out of my Edge Pro Gear product placement, and then then I can put it right back in, because magnets. Yep, if you haven't watched that video yet, that's also another one that's just meant to primarily cause laughs. So it was fun. It was fun to make. In fact, if I could make review videos all the time, that'd be fine too. So one of the things that's kind of, to get back to the theme of good enough to move on is, yes, I'm working on this kind of very focused area. I've tried to give myself some values and a few things around it to tell me about what I'm doing. But I know that while this may be the most important thing I'm working on right now, it won't be the most important thing in the painting. Each of the figures and their gestures are going to be what really moves the painting and makes it effective. And so in knowing that, yeah, I'm gonna do a really good job on this drapery, but only to a certain degree. And because again, the painting is going to be carried by their expressions and the hands, and is all of that done really well, because that's got to be there. And those are the times that I'll take greater care and getting right. So I'm just using this little buffer to just pull some of those around and create a little more softness, but also probably hard to see, but there's just these little marks that are following the form, curving with the form, and that it does a lot for our eyes in making it seem volumetric. So each one of these strokes is rounded as I'm kind of following this. Some of these areas in the dark, it's not going to be as critical that I do that, but you know, I can still a little bit falling in the light. Yep, I think it's just getting really close. The areas in the dark too, the darker areas tend to need a little less as well. You know, you can describe them and they'll work. And you don't have to spend a lot of detail on them. Okay, because I definitely want the light coming from here, this shoulder illuminated, this one dark. I want to really feel that whole form turning in this way. I don't like my edge on this side. It is actually a finished edge over there, so I'm going to try to create a little bit of a mixture just to clean up this edge some. It's in the shadow, so I want it softening that, mixing a little bit of the color that I already knew that I mixed behind. Just to there was just a little hard edge. I could see some paint. I could see some canvas tooth. And I just want to break that down a little bit. All right. Gimbo, I think. You guys got some more questions? Some thoughts? Breakdowns? Hey, Sarah, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Sorry if it's been a couple minutes since you commented, yes, Barack, and thanks for the nice comment there, Andy. Appreciate it. And yes, it looks like a battlefield. I just really clean up my the palette each time, and I don't know. I just maybe I'm just probably not a real painter. Let's be honest. So yes, Sarah, thanks for popping in and checking how it's coming. Yep, it's coming along nicely. I'm excited. That's all good. You can tune in whenever you can. So that's right. You Sarah and Barack, you guys were here back in when we had ducks and doing that sort of thing. So you guys had a lot of fun together. So Sean, I'm running solo today. Good question, Sarah. I'm running solo. I actually have Sean outside suffering. So don't you can tell him bless you. He's working on a window well cover for me, and so just tell him God bless you. Can we see the whole canvas as it is? I don't know if I can without. I'm kind of focusing on the areas that I'm working on, but I tell you what, I'll send Sarah. What I'll do is I'll send a composition breakdown to compositional breakdown to the Patreon page, and everyone, so you guys can kind of see where it's going. Hey John, good to see you, brother. Thanks for popping in. I'm gonna move. I think there's a little bit of blue fabric that I didn't quite. I just forgot was there. It's down here on the bottom, and so I'm gonna lower. Gonna shake the camera. Look away. Look away. If you're motion sick, look away. Don't get sick. Actually, I'm gonna raise this. What am I thinking? I have options. I'll raise this up just a little bit, and we're gonna kind of focus a little bit more blue fabric underneath here. Let me see, how am I doing? All right, looking good there. Welcome, welcome. And yep, right there. Let's do this. Hopping back in, making sure that I'm not covering where I'm working. So I've got to a new section, and I'm gonna treat it just the way I did. I've got an hour, so we're gonna try to quickly block in the major lights, darks, and kind of see where we get. So I've got this nice, deep, beautiful shadow here. Definitely want to capture that. And it's not as dark. There's some reflected light in here, but I got to be careful around the book because the book probably looks unfinished, but that's just because there's not a lot of color to it. The book is rendered, and it's also what they call sunken in, and so it's sad right now. It needs a coat of varnish, or it needs to be oiled out so that you can see what's happening. I'm just working in the faith that I know it was good when I left it. Anyway, I know it was ready. It was good to go. So I'll come back to it. I think as soon as a coat of varnish gets over it, it'll be like, yep, it's all there again. So Sarah, can I put you in charge of moderating the stream? all the way in another country and time zone and so on and so forth. And it's just that our bandwidth here, all right, I'm going to get really brutally honest, okay? You know, I can't afford high bandwidth internet connections, so we've got what we've got, which is not enough. But as long as no one else is streaming in the house, so I have to sometimes talk to Anna and the kids about that. As long as no one else is streaming in the house, we have barely enough bandwidth to make it work. Secondly, the computer for streaming is across the room on purpose. It makes this kind of buzzing noise that I think would be distracting, which is also another reason for me to just keep talking, because then it's not heard as easily. And yeah, and so so sadly I can't read the comments, so I'm definitely not logging in watching from my other computer, because hey, that's precious bandwidth that I can't afford to lose. Otherwise the stream will drop, and you know, trying to avoid that as best I can. We've had some rough days. You know, we yesterday I missed out. I wasn't able to stream yesterday. I intended to, so sorry if you came in yesterday and was like, oh, he's not here. Why? You promised. I'm sorry. I just wasn't able to do it. But yes, my moderator is dutifully and kindly working outside, rebuilding a window well cover, which will be good because he lives, Sean lives with us, and he's part of our family, and he's gonna, well, maybe I should say his soon-to-be wife will probably be much happier in our space if there's a little more light down there. And so this one kind of creates, this cover will create a little more light, and I've been wanting to do it for a while now, you know, just one of those house things that you do. So otherwise he'd be on it, and he would be so excited that you guys are all here, because he really enjoyed it, and so did I. When everyone was here about a month ago, and there was ducks, and we were all happy, and it was really fun. And hey, tune in tomorrow. I was just telling the stream, if you tune in tomorrow, there might be kittens. No promises, but we're going to pick up a couple for my wife's family. The farms can always use new genetic material for barn cats, and so for good healthy barn cats, and so we're gonna pick up a few cats, and they get to live life. Don't worry, they're fed. They don't have to subsist off of what they can find. They're fed. They're well taken care of and loved. But sometimes you just need to introduce new genetics to the pool of cats in the barn cat world. Yep. All right, I see some comments. Oh, yeah, it probably slows down the process a little bit, Sarah, but, you know, and the divided attention and, like the divided attention thing, it goes okay. At this point, I could just kind of keep going. I guess I've landed at that time where I can kind of do it without thinking. And I think can have a conversation. Sometimes people come and hang out, and this is my day job, and so I'll say okay. I promise I'm listening to you and we're hanging out. We really are. I know that I'm not looking you in the face, but I promise we're hanging out. and I'm listening and I'm engaging. I'm just gonna do this at the same time because I really try to protect my time, especially family time. And so I don't like to work past 5 Central. And so we're coming up on that. 45 minutes to finish this patch of fabric. So you gotta root me on and help me get there. Also help me stop on time too, that I don't go over too much. So now I'm trying to work on sort of the next lighter areas, sort of the mid-range values. I kind of blocked in those darks, and now I'm going to do the same with these mid-range values, and then we'll drop in those lighter values too. I can't believe I forgot I had some blue down here, but I did. It was probably because I was distracted. Insert laugh track right there. I should probably buy the rights to a few laugh track sound effects. Just for times like that. It was pretty exciting yesterday. I also captured some of the imagery for the next painting. So right now we're working on the Annunciation of the 5 Joyful Mysteries. And then the next one is the Visitation. So I got together and I think I got some really good pictures and ready to kind of get that one going too. I mean, I'm gonna go in order. So I'm far from it right now, but this will go swifter than I always think, and so I had to be ready. Blocking in. So you can see it's just these little pieces of shapes that are just kind of slowly being built up, and you know we'll get to kind of smoothing it out, cleaning it up. You know, I've already done the main work in establishing the lights and darks for it to sit on top of. I wouldn't achieve such a rich dark if I had not already put those, you know, these dark values that you see in some of these areas down first. Because, believe it or not, this looks like it's completely opaque, probably on the video, but it's not. It's still reading slightly transparent. And I like that because, especially with a ground that is a little warmer and oranger, especially on blue, it's fun to kind of see that there's just an energy in between the mark where you can see, and I'm going to cover up all of this area, but just little areas where a bristle rubs against the canvas and rubs it all the way down to this still shows through, and creates for some really interesting and fun visual treats. You can't really see it from your vantage point, and I'm sorry, because it is kind of cool. I think my book's dry. Yep. Okay. Barack is right. As soon as this baby is varnished, the magic happens. So we'll stream that too, the varnishing. Even though, I already have a varnish video out on the channel, and you can drop by. It won't be nearly as evident in that video. But if as soon as I put varnish down on some of these areas, every bit of richness comes back, and it's really mind-blowing. And you're like, oh yeah, oil painting. That's what it does. That's what it looks like. I still hear Sean working away outside, so that's good. I'll get worried if I stop hearing noises. And it is hot today. No lying. We're getting near 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry, American. Okay, coming along well. How's the chat doing? I think I have a couple minutes, but then I'm gonna have to buckle down. Hey, good night, Brock. Good to see you. Thanks, brother. Thanks for being here. Love having you on the stream. Okay, thanks, John. Man, I appreciate that. Well, let's talk about it. Sorry, sir, you're not gonna get your sister, but soon, sounds like. Sarah, I did see that. I was thinking about you with all the crazy heat that was going on in Canada. I was like, oh my word. I mean, and it was really your neck of the woods too. So And I did see that you guys you had posted that you had found an extension cord or some sort of power source so that there could be a little bit of air conditioning in the house or something. You had mentioned that on Facebook. I think this was before my my Facebook hiatus, which I've been off for about a month now. Well, basically ever since Sean started. I've tried to kind of distance myself. I still have a hard time sleeping at night, so I thought that might do it. I was like, maybe less information flowing into my mind would be good, but that didn't do it. So trying other things, but still don't mind not being on Facebook. It does make me sad because then I don't know the fun adventures that you have and my friends have, that getting their air conditioner working or what have you. So sometimes just, I feel like too, I know I've done this section, and this section, but I feel like those first 2 hours were almost just a warm up. And now, because now I feel like I'm getting into the good. I should probably do more warm ups. That it just makes me think. Like, what is I mean, sketching, of course, but like running drills or going and doing some layups, but with painting. "30 minutes. It's always so much pressure." But you gotta hold me accountable that I don't go over time. I went and got my driver's license renewed today. So that's exciting. New picture. I don't know that I had much gray hair in the last one, but this one, it's getting real. Dropped off a painting at a gallery here in town that I'm going to begin working with. That was exciting too. And so, yeah, quite good day. Let's see. Any new news? Oh, tripping. 122 degrees. That is insane. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Nice. Well, it's pretty sweet. Yes, a lot more. Yeah, that's cute. One of my models who posed for me yesterday as we were setting up shots for the visitation, her grandpa kind of did a similar thing. I think just kind of commenting on just as I'm sure you do. You're a grandfather. You've watched your grandkids grow up. And he just kind of came out and said, you look old. And, she was not... Her sister laughed a lot. I mean, I don't know that she did, but she's like, you're old. Thanks, Grandpa. As only the way it would be sweet coming from your grandpa. Or from a 6-year-old, I mean, no offense to grandpas, but totally okay. Right, happy with how this is coming. I think I may just make it. Get all the blue done today. I knew I had about 3 hours, and I was like, I think if I push it, I can make that happen. I've had a lot of errands in the morning past couple of days that haven't allowed me to do streaming. So I was happy to be back on today. Happy to see you all as well. And in truth, I was kind of doing some more boring parts the past couple of days. It's, you're getting to see some color, and you're kind of getting to see these parts go from nothing to something. And, I was working in big areas, but, I was just building these colors of, it was just kind of a black and white painting, to be honest. And, it's amazing how many people aren't really interested in that. There's a lot of times I was talking to myself. But I think, now we're getting to some more exciting parts of the painting. And, I think the watch hours are going to go up. More people on the stream. Which more the merrier. Yeah, I definitely need to set up another monitor, John. So talk to you after this. John and I were in an awesome group together a couple of years ago when I first kind of kicked off painting as a career. And we made a lot of goals together, just for our lives, various parts of our lives, from career goals, but also social goals, as in like, okay, how do I want to spend my time with people, to spiritual goals. Okay, what do I really want to achieve in my life spiritually? To I'm gonna forget. There's 7 different areas of life, and I'm just blanking now. But it was great, and I really that was really nice to have during that time, starting off my career. So I always look back to that very fondly. So thanks again, John, for being there during those times. It's really good. Even if you've already gotten off the stream, thanks. By golly, I think we're going to do it. So after I've kind of reached this point where everything is mostly blocked in, yeah, there's a few edges that aren't quite there. I'll sort of switch gears and I'll jump to a little buffer brush, and this buffer I'll use to follow the form and just soften some of my mark here and there. So I mean, you feel this happening here, this one fold coming out here. This is a great chance to create some volume. So I really want to pay attention and get that right. If you're leaving a comment, thank you. I promise I'll get to it before I end the stream. But I'm down on my time here, so I will look at the end. So you'll notice the mark is it's happening I'm like following this form because it's kind of pushing up this way, and so my mark is going to do similar things in order to all those little lines to help us tell what the form is doing, and it's just what painters have done for centuries. Liking how that's looking. Just going to soften some of these areas. There's a lot of paint in there, so I need to be careful. I'm going to drag it around. Soften that little fold as it goes into the shadow. Best part yet. This is best section of drapery yet. Only took 3 hours to get in the zone. And this is a little camel hair. The brushes are really fine, and they're very soft, so they're just kind of raking the paint just slightly, but definitely creating that space that I was hoping for coming around. See, you just saw I kind of drug it through, and it brought some of that black, that mixed black, that chromatic black up to the top. Don't want to cover my book, but I got to make sure that I get all that ground layer in between there covered. Haven't done the tabletop yet, so I can probably go over the top there and do quite nicely. Today's Friday, isn't it? I'm forgetting what day it is. There's just a few marks here. And this is one of those great places, since all this fabric here is red. It's going to reflect on that blue, so I can put down this little bit more of a purple shadow on this side. It's reflecting all that warm fabric. Angle my brush a little bit so I can come up to the edge of an object that's, in front of what I'm working on, so, and is already rendered and complete, so I don't really want to cover it, or if I can help it. So here's a good time to see that, I have a few fold lines here that, if I put this black on top of my ground layer, I mean, it's mostly covering it, but I can see some of this layer still showing through, and that's kind of what I try to avoid in building up the rest of these darks and lights before putting the final color layer on top. And occasionally, just go a little far, just a tiny little mark. Find my little eraser tool. I don't know, somewhere around here. All right, I'll be okay. Here. There we go. It's probably gonna happen again. Using the tip of my filbert here to just get barely into that edge. So it's tough, you know. I use the dry areas to really steady my hand, and I know I've got a maul stick, but I just don't use it. I should learn how to use it well, but it just never feels comfortable to me. So I like to just use my pinky, kind of rest it. So some of these areas gets a little challenging. Didn't quite get this value in. It's kind of mid-range value as the light is decaying, and we're getting closer to that terminus in the shadow where the light ends entirely. Quite that dark, but that's what I put down. Roll with it. Getting just about there. Never a big fan of little details, so it's really hard for me to work this close to other things. We're getting close to Gitmo. Not Gitmo, Getmo, okay? Getmo. Good enough to move on. We're almost there. And my time is almost up. We can get out the brush and soften up this a little bit, see how it ends up looking. So I really want that falling away and turning back inward. And so my brush marks are going to round out this way. If you've ever done a contour line study, like a drawing study, you know, those lines just if I were to do the opposite, it doesn't make it feel like it's coming forward. It's just a fascinating way that we see, our eyes perceive things. You know, and I can turn it out the other way if I would want this to kind of come out a little more, but then can curve it back this way. This if I just need that to sit right there, and I think we just about did it. Like a little bit of energy in my edge. And just wait until the hand is done on top of that book, and along with the red fabric around it. Be pretty exciting. And we're going to do it all on camera. I have not, I mean, maybe just a few minutes. I haven't done a single thing that hasn't been recorded. So you can head back on the channel and see every little part of it, all the parts that no one ever wants to watch. Because, you know, you really want to see something come into being in the time, but it's just not the way painting works. You have to build it up. That's why, you know, the videos will be exciting. So when I do Mary's Space, it's fun to watch that. It's kind of fun to watch this all of a sudden become a volume. But all that work underneath is what made that possible. And all the drawing, so the drawing had to be right. The value foundations built in the underpainting also had to be in place. And so all these parts, I'm just going to knock down this edge. It looked a little like it was catching light. When all these parts are in place, you know, then you have something that really starts working and something to get excited about. All right. I think that might be it for today. Let me run to your comments. Thanks for watching. Let's see. Oh, no more. Awesome. Hey, thanks everybody. I had a really great time working with you today, and thanks for keeping me company. I so appreciate it. Sarah, we'll see ya. And anyone else still watching, thank you so much. Blessings, and maybe tomorrow, I don't know what tomorrow holds. So we'll have to see. So take care. And